I'm 79 years old, and I have everything I was supposed to want. That's not a boast. That's the problem. There's a clock on the wall of my kitchen that cost $400. It's the only sound in the house most mornings, just that ticking, and nothing else. I sit here every morning with my coffee, and I think about things I can't seem to stop thinking about. My name is Donald Caldwell. I worked in corporate finance for 41 years, mostly at the same manufacturing firm outside of Cleveland. I retired at 66 with a pension, a 401k that had done well, and a house that's been paid off since 2004. By any standard measure, I did what I was supposed to do. I provided, I planned, I saved. I built a financial life that works exactly the way I designed it to work. And I'm sitting here at this kitchen table at 7 in the morning with nothing but a clock for company, trying to figure out what went wrong. Because something went wrong. The money is all here. The rest of it isn't. I don't know why I'm saying that out loud. Maybe because I've been thinking it quietly for a few years now, and the thinking hasn't gotten me anywhere. I started at the firm in 1971. 25 years old, entry-level accountant, salary of $11,000 a year. I remember exactly what that felt like. I remember the weight of it. My father had worked at a tool and die shop for 30 years and never cleared $9,000. So 11 felt like I'd already won something. Janet and I were newly married. She was 23. We had a small apartment on the east side, and the rent was $140 a month. And I remember sitting at the kitchen table, a different kitchen table, a cheap one with a crack running through the laminate, calculating how long it would take to save for a house if I kept my expenses low and worked the overtime they were offering. I had a notebook. I had a plan. And the plan was simple. Sacrifice now, enjoy later. Everything I gave up today was an investment in tomorrow. That was the logic, and the logic felt airtight. By 28, I'd been promoted twice. By 32, I was supervising a team. The salary climbed, $14,000, then $19,000, then $26,000. Each number felt like proof that the plan was working, and each step up came with a cost that seemed reasonable at the time. Work a little later, travel a little more, miss a dinner here, a weekend there. Janet understood. She always said she understood. She was good at understanding. She had this way of nodding and smiling that made you feel like everything was fine. And I took that at face value because it was convenient to believe it. Janet was the kind of person who noticed things. She noticed when the neighbors were struggling. She noticed when her friends were sad. She'd bake something and bring it over, or she'd just show up and sit with someone. She was small, maybe 5'3". With dark hair she kept short after the kids were born. She had a laugh you could hear from another room. In those early years, she was the warm center of everything, and I was the structure around it. I earned. She lived. I thought we were a team. I thought what I was doing was for both of us. Our daughter, Karen, was born in 1975. Our son, Michael, in 1978. I was 32 when Michael came, and I'd just been made assistant controller. The raise was substantial. The hours were worse. I remember Janet telling me Karen had started asking why I wasn't at dinner. She was 4. I told Janet it was temporary. The position would stabilize. Things would calm down. I believed that. I think Janet believed it too, at least at first. That was 1979. Things did not calm down. By 38, I was controller. By 43, I was VP of Finance. By 51, I was CFO. Each title came with more money and more hours and more distance from the kitchen table where my family was eating without me. And at every stage, the logic held. This promotion means a bigger bonus. This bonus means the college fund is covered. This trip means the mortgage gets paid down faster. The math was always clean. The math was always right. The cost was somewhere else, in a column I wasn't tracking. Karen had a school play when she was 8. I think it was something about pilgrims. Janet told me about it weeks in advance. She put the date on the calendar in the kitchen, circled it twice in red marker. I said I'd be there. I wasn't, quarterly close. I called from the office and told Janet to tape it on the camcorder. She said she would. She didn't sound surprised. I remember that. She didn't sound surprised that I wasn't coming, and at the time that didn't bother me. It should have. When I got home that night, Karen was already asleep. Janet was sitting on the couch with the TV on low. I asked how the play went, and she said fine. I asked if Karen was upset. Janet said, she didn't expect you to come. Karen was 8 years old, and she'd already stopped expecting me. I don't know why that didn't hit me then the way it hits me now. I think I filed it away. I think I told myself I'd make it up to her. There'd be other plays, other chances. The thing about thinking you have time is that you're usually right. There is more time, but the time that comes later isn't the same time. Karen's next play isn't the play she was 8 in. The next dinner isn't tonight's dinner. You can't go back and fill in the spaces you left empty. You can only add new ones. I didn't understand that distinction. I thought time was interchangeable. It isn't. By the time I was 45, my salary was over $120,000. We'd moved to the bigger house, the one I'm sitting in now. 4 bedrooms, a study, a yard with mature trees. The mortgage was large but manageable. I was putting 15% into retirement and funding 2 college accounts. On paper, I was doing everything a responsible man should do. Janet had settled into her own life by then. She had her friends, her volunteer work, her garden. The kids had their routines. I came home late and left early, and the household operated around my absence like water flowing around a stone. Nobody complained. That was the thing that made it so easy to continue. Nobody complained. There was a man at the firm named Ray Hodges. He was in operations about 5 years younger than me. Good at his job, not exceptional, but good. Around 1996, when he was maybe 45, Ray did something I couldn't understand. He stepped down. Not fired, not forced out. He just stepped down to a lower position. Took a pay cut of maybe 30%. I asked him about it once, in the hallway outside the break room. He said his daughter was starting high school and his wife had told him she was lonely, and he figured the money would figure itself out if he showed up more. I remember nodding and thinking he was making a mistake, that he'd regret the lost earnings, the pension gap, the compounding he was forfeiting. I ran the numbers in my head while he was talking to me. That's who I was. Someone told me his family needed him, and I calculated the financial cost of being present. Ray retired 5 years before I did. Smaller pension, smaller savings. He and his wife travel now. Their daughter calls them every Sunday. I know this because his wife still sends Janet's old friends a Christmas card every year, and one of them mentioned it to me after Janet's funeral. I didn't say anything. I just stood there holding a paper plate of food I didn't want, listening to a woman tell me about the life a man with less money built because he stopped optimizing. Michael got married in 2006. He was 28. Nice ceremony. Janet planned most of it because Michael's fiance's family was small and didn't have much. Janet was happy, really happy. I could see it in the way she moved through that day, talking to everyone, fixing things, making sure the flowers were right. I was there. I was physically present for the entire event. And during the reception, my phone rang. It was the head of our European division with a problem that, looking back, could have waited until Monday. I stepped outside and took the call. It lasted maybe 20 minutes. When I came back in, Michael was standing near the bar, and he looked at me, and he didn't say anything. He just looked at me. I could see him deciding whether to be angry or to let it go. He let it go. People had been letting me go for years. That was my son's wedding day, and the thing I remember most clearly is the look on his face when I came back from a phone call that didn't need to happen. Janet and I were married for 47 years. She died in 2019. Ovarian cancer. Diagnosed in January, gone by September. During those months I was retired. I was home. I was finally fully available. And I realized I didn't know how to be in a room with her. We'd spent so many years with me working and her adapting that when the work stopped, there was this space between us that neither of us knew how to cross. We were polite. We were kind. We watched television together in the evenings. But the deep conversations, the ones where you actually say what you're thinking, those had stopped so long ago that I couldn't remember when they'd ended. One afternoon, maybe 2 months before she died, she was sitting in the living room with a blanket over her legs, and she said something I think about every day. She said, "I wonder what we would have talked about." That's all. Not angry, not sad exactly, just curious. Like she was looking at a road we'd never taken and wondering where it went. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. I just sat there. And she turned back to the window. "I wonder what we would have talked about." 8 words, I've turned them over thousands of times. They weren't an accusation, they were an observation. She wasn't blaming me. She was noticing, the way she always noticed things, that something was missing. And she was right. Something had been missing for a very long time, and I was the one who'd taken it out of the room. After she died, I found her recipe box in the pantry. It was wooden, hand-painted, something her mother had given her. Inside were dozens of recipe cards in her handwriting. But tucked between the cards were other things. Notes, little folded pieces of paper with thoughts she'd written down. Most of them were ordinary, grocery reminders, appointment times, but a few of them weren't. One said, "Dee worked late again, kids asleep, house is so quiet." Another said, 30 years, should feel like more. I don't know when she wrote them. I don't know if she intended for me to find them, but I found them, and they read like a ledger I never knew she was keeping. I keep wondering when I decided that the money was enough. I don't think I ever made that decision consciously. I think it happened the same way everything else happened, gradually, logically, one reasonable choice at a time, until the reasonable choices added up to something I can't undo. I made the right financial decisions for 40 years. I have the proof. The house is paid for. The retirement account is healthy. The cars are reliable. There's money for anything I need and most things I'd want. I eat well. I'm comfortable. The furnace works. And Karen calls on birthdays and holidays. Michael comes for Thanksgiving some years. I have 2 grandchildren I see maybe 3 or 4 times a year. When they visit, they're polite and slightly careful with me, the way you are with someone you don't quite know but feel you should. I watch them in the yard from this kitchen window, and I can tell they're performing their visit, doing the right amount of time before they're allowed to leave. I don't blame them. I didn't build anything with their parents that would have made them want to stay. The money is in the account, the house is in good repair. The clock on the wall keeps perfect time. I have a 4-bedroom house and most of the doors stay closed. I have a dining room table that seats 8 and I eat at the kitchen counter. I have a car in the garage and most days I drive to the grocery store and back. The infrastructure of a full life, maintained and functioning with nobody in it. I was good at one thing and I did that one thing thoroughly, and the other things got quiet and then they got distant and then they were gone. The money always made sense in a way that the rest of it didn't. You can measure money. You can watch it grow. You can see it working. The other things, presence, attention, intimacy, those don't compound. They don't show up on a statement. You can't track whether you're gaining or losing until it's too late to adjust the strategy. It's morning again. Same kitchen, same clock, same coffee. The yard looks nice. Someone's coming to trim the hedges on Thursday. I wrote a check for it yesterday. $420 for a yard I mostly see through a window. The house is warm. The furnace cycles on and I can hear it in the walls. This low, steady hum, keeping everything at exactly 72 degrees. Everything works. Everything is maintained. The system I built does what I built it to do. Janet's recipe box is still in the pantry. I haven't moved it. I haven't opened it again either. I know what's inside. I know what it says. It says the same thing this house says, the same thing the clock says, the same thing the silence says every morning at 7 when I sit down with my coffee and listen to $400 tick away the seconds.